Sko Show, AP, Chase Howell, joined by the man himself, the Buff aficionado, Mr. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com. He's been doing this for a long time, our go-to guy for all things Colorado Buffaloes, news and notes. And of course, this segment is powered by our friends over at Peckish. But Adam, it's been a little while. We had to, throw DJ McKinney in the mix. We were able to secure that interview. And I know both Chase and myself have been very busy, but happy to have you back on the show. How are things, my friend?
They're great. That's a great guest to have right now, DJ McKinney. If Travis Hunter wasn't on this team, I think we'd be talking a lot more about him. I think he is a future NFL guy, maybe a top 3 round pick, when you see what he's done his first year in Boulder, and he's got another year before he's draft eligible, I think. Or I think Coach Prime said that he would only go to the NFL early this year if he was a first round pick. And so hopefully we'll get to see him again next year in a Buffs uniform, because they're going to need some dogs to return next year.
Yeah, that is for sure. And one thing, I forget if it was in the interview or when I was talking to DJ after, like, that was my biggest takeaway, is how laser focused he is on just being a good football player. Like, he doesn't care about any of the outside noise and the clout or anything like that. Like, his number one goal is to be the best version of himself. Part of the reason why he came to Colorado, to learn from the best in Coach Prime. And for any of you that haven't watched that interview yet, it is on our Mile High Sports YouTube channel. But all right, let's dive right on into it, my friend. Big time victory for Colorado over Cincinnati. Here we are on kind of this makeshift second bye. Your overall opinion and reaction to Colorado's win against Cincinnati, but more importantly, how good they've looked throughout the course of this season, now being the number 23 ranked team in the nation.
Well, having been around here for a while, Chase, I'm anxious to hear you chime in on this. Having Colorado be bowl eligible before the end of October was a feeling after that game that was pretty awesome. We've all been through a lot, covering, following, being fans of this program, and there is a lot ahead of this team. And I think that's why this bye week comes at a great time to kind of hit reset after getting that bowl eligibility, to really hone in on, okay, now our goals are much bigger going forward. But for that night, I felt like you had to just kind of sit back and just appreciate where this program is now as compared to a couple years ago, and not in a PTSD way, just in a letting go of that way, of being able to kind of move past some of recent failures of this program. And Cincinnati's a good football team. I think Colorado would beat them on a neutral field 7 or 8 times out of 10. I think they're just a better football team. But that was still an impressive win. And the things that you want to see, improve pass protection and running the football, and Travis Hunter out there making plays, and just so much of it came together that night. And really 2 weeks in a row, ever since that Kansas State game, this team has been playing very consistent football. But my main takeaway was just really putting in perspective how things are much different now as compared to a couple years ago.
Yeah, being 5-2 is not really an unfamiliar spot that many Buffs fans have been over the past 7-8 years. Maybe there were some opportunities to get to a bowl game, and it seemed like they failed every single time, even last year. Getting to 4 wins so early and not being able to get 2 more. So it was an incredible feeling to get 6 this early in the season. But do you feel almost vindicated at all about just what this Colorado Buffaloes team has been? I know we talk a lot in the offseason about all the buildup and the top quarterback in the country, and they've improved talent all across the board. And I think you even saying that they beat Cincinnati on a neutral field 7 out of 8 times. I think that goes to show the type of talent that is on this team. Do you feel any sort of vindication about how this team has performed this season?
Well, I think anybody that was talking Colorado that did the research this past offseason and realized the influx of talent, and kind of seeing them fill the gaps from where they were missing when they were 4-8, and thinking back and going, gosh, that 4-8 season was really disappointing, but they were a little play here or there, or an injury here or there from being a 6-7-1 team with the worst offensive line in the country. So now you've, fixed the issue in the sense that the floor has been risen really high. And I don't know, about you guys, but I always just really felt confident that the floor had been risen so substantially that 6 wins was really not in question. And it was, okay, where from there do they go? And we've seen now with the Big 12 not living up to the way we thought it would be in terms of especially these last 4 opponents that they have with Kansas and Oklahoma State and even Utah down there. The last 3 games, we thought that was going to be this gauntlet of a stretch. And now you look at it and go, Colorado might go 10-2 this season, because they're going to be favored in all those games. So I guess it's just kind of a long-winded way to say that it's vindication for anybody that did research over those people that just, for whatever reason, didn't like what Coach Prime was doing in Boulder, for whatever reason they had, and decided they were just going to base it on surface level stuff versus actually looking at what was being built in Boulder. And that's the part of it that has been fun. And it's too bad that these guys are in and out, so many transfers. You fall in love with the guy, like at Shedeur Wankwell, and then he's going to be out the door. So that part of it's tough, but the roster building coverage / just being a fan following it has been actually pretty fun because you've seen so many talented guys come into Boulder.
And that's what I want to ask you is what has this season, because we knew after the 4-8 year last year, like it was fun, right? But this was the main entree for Colorado. I saw that they flipped a couple of recruits here in the last couple of weeks. I know that game against UCF, there was a ton of recruits on the UCF sideline, but it felt like there was a bunch of those guys that were there to watch Coach Prime and watch Colorado in particular. How do you think their success already this season, but in particular, if they can finish with that 10-2 record, how do you think that sets Colorado up in the recruiting department moving forward for next year?
Well, you're starting to see them get more prep recruits. It's never going to be the bulk of the additions, I don't feel like, especially you look at some of the pieces they're going to have to replace. A lot of that's going to have to come through the portal. But no, there's definitely a buzz. There were definitely recruits out there. And that's why we've seen it referred to as flip season for Colorado, is now they get to go back in on guys that were interested in Colorado, but maybe they heard that outside noise or they just wanted to see with their own eyes in terms of the wins on the field. And now that that's happening, you're going to get to a point where now you're turning recruits away, which is a good spot to be in. In terms of the 4- and 5-star guys, you're going to see an influx of that with these wins. But we hear Coach Prime talk time and time again about they're not star chasing. They really are learning, I think, steadily at Colorado of like kind of weeding some of these guys out that are looking to go to Colorado for the flash. Okay, that's great. You can get that if you come to Colorado, and that's a good selling point, but you got to have the substance behind it. Otherwise, you're going to get chewed up and spit out of this program pretty quick. And we've seen that, which I think is great. That's a great part of kind of having that other side of guys can leave you when you really want them and you've developed them. Well, now you can kind of create your own roster and kind of go on the other end of it. If a guy's not working hard, you might have been stuck with that guy for 3, 4, 5 years before. Now they're not in the program anymore. And so that part of it, you're going to see just a continued, I think, jump up in recruiting. We've seen that since Coach Prime got to Boulder. And I certainly don't see that trend going back in the other direction anytime soon.
Let's talk a little bit about Corey Phillips and just what he has done with this entire football roster. Maybe one of the unsung heroes of this team who we don't talk about enough. He went in to this job just with a clear plan. And I just think all the things that he has done, of course, within the transfer portal, but now with recruiting and being able to jump on all these guys late, it has seemed that he has done things so much differently than anybody else that has directed player personnel in college football. And I know that you cover him closely and you pay a lot of attention to everything he has done. Can you just tell us a little bit about all of his different strengths and just how impressed you have been with his ability to build a roster?
Yeah, I think the thing that stands out to me from what I've heard about Corey Phillips is that he doesn't just say, okay, I'm the director of player personnel. I should do X, Y, Z. He kind of is a Swiss Army knife in that champion center. And he's somebody that will spend time with scouts when they're there looking at guys that are on the current roster. He's got his hand in so many different areas, and he's put together a really good staff too. Obviously, having the diverse role that he takes on at Colorado, he's got to have people on the recruiting end kind of doing, a lot of the grunt work stuff. And he's got a good staff up there, and his personality really lends itself well, I think, across the board, from his peers to the recruits to, even media. You watch him on the Prime documentary, and you can tell his care factor is very high. And so he's willing to take on these different roles. And that's part of Coach Prime's magic, is that so many people want to fulfill their goals and don't want to disappoint the head man. And you've really got a continuity factor within that building, because the leadership at the top is very clear. There's not this kind of divisive nature within that building of people trying to power struggle it. It's very clear who runs the program, and Corey Phillips is proven to be a very good piece for them in terms of running that recruiting department. And it's certainly not an easy job, especially when you're doing as much transfer portal recruiting as they are, because that moves so quick. A kid hits the portal, and if you're not in their DMs very quickly, you could be already out of the mix. And so they've done a great job as far as that goes.
Well, speaking of people that have also done a great job, let me tell you real quick about our friends over at Peckish, guys. It is Coach Prime approved. It is Travis Hunter approved. It is Shedeur Sanders approved. And I know it's going to be Adam Munsterteiger approved as well here. Be sure to check out our friends, our sponsor here at the Sko Show. They help us keep the lights on. 2 locations. If you're going to all the games in Boulder, if you're going to visit the campus, whatever it might be sure to check out their location on the hill, or also make sure to check out their brand new location in the Denver metro area at 4920 South Newport, right off of I-25 in Bellevue. Incredible pizza, incredible wings. And at the Denver Tech Center location in particular, they're doing 1-topping personal pizzas for $10 Monday through Friday. So be sure to check out our friends over at Peckish. I'm a big fan. I know Chase is a big fan, and everybody out there listening will be a big fan as well. Shout out to our friends over at Peckish. But continuing along here, Adam Munsterteiger of BuffStampede.com always does a great job with us. I've got to ask this. It was a talking point with Drotar earlier in the week on Mile High Sports Today. Coach Prime has been pretty mum about what the future looks like, with him personally. I don't want to ask you, is Coach Prime going to be here or not? But I am of the belief that Coach Prime will do what is best for Coach Prime. And I think the fact that they're going to look to go 10-2. They're going to be in a high-quality bowl game. They're going to get Miss Peggy there. They're in the conversation for a Big 12 championship game or a college football playoff. Like, what are some of the factors? I guess the question is, do you see Coach Prime still being into this without Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders?
Well, I just don't see Coach Prime as the type of person that wants to go sit on the couch and certainly, once his sons exhaust their eligibility and go off to the NFL after the season. And certainly he could go back to being on TV and being an analyst, but he just seems like a guy that likes challenges, and he's already done that. And the way they're recruiting, and I get that you're going to recruit no matter what the situation is going to be after the season and what your future holds, but it feels like he's going to be back. But we trying to get away from this PTSD, guys, but we just went through the Mel Tucker thing back in 2020, right? So, there's a little bit of that you just, things are going so well that it's like, okay, when's the bottom going to drop out here? But maybe we should move past that. And I think a lot of people would be able to move past that if Colorado achieves their goals this season, and then we get to 2025 and Coach Prime is still the coach. I think that will happen. But yeah, nothing he has done has signaled anything to me that thinks that he wants to be somewhere else. But yeah, you don't know what those opportunities are going to be after the season. I still see those NFL rumors, and it's like he has made it very, very clear that he doesn't want to coach in the NFL. And so that wouldn't concern me in terms of opportunities there. But yeah, it's hard to tell what things are going to look like. I don't know what Florida State's situation looks like, with Norvell going forward. But even that, it just doesn't seem like a lot of these programs are going to be a better fit for Coach Prime because he's already gotten the infrastructure the way that he wants at Colorado. Colorado's a national brand right now. And it's not necessarily about the money for him. I think he'd love to be the first African-American coach to win a national championship. And it's not to say you can't do that at Colorado because you compete in the Big 12 where the entrance into this new 12-team playoff is a little bit easier than maybe if you're at a Big 10 program or an SEC program. And we don't know what the ACC's future looks like. So I don't know. That's good. A lot of things to throw at you there. But if I was going to place a bet today, I think Coach Prime is back in Boulder next year.
Over the last 2 years, and I know we wouldn't have said this 2 years ago, but do you think Colorado has the resources, especially in the athletic department, that are enough to be able to win a national championship in football?
Yeah, it's tough because I don't know if Colorado's NIL collective is ever going to be in the top 5 or 10 in the country. So you're going to have to play off Coach Prime's fame. But, if these next 4 weeks, Chase, they go 10-2, then that mitigates some of that NIL stuff, and you see the guys that are going to be drafted out of Colorado's program this year. So there are going to be other selling points in there as well. It's not going to be an easy path. But again, you do have an easier chance to at least get in that playoff, I think, at Colorado in the Big 12 going forward than you would at some other, quote, prestigious programs that maybe have a better NIL. And there's the other side of it too. And this is kind of something that Coach Prime has talked about, that, some of these guys are too focused on NIL. And you can kind of go that next tier down and find guys like Nikhai Hill-Green that really, really want it, that aren't going to need that. Maybe the top figure for NIL will need some, obviously, NIL to convince him, but those guys can help you win a lot of football games. And so it will be interesting to see how that goes going forward. I think if they go 10-2, 9-3, and playing a bowl game and have success there, that you will see more people willing to step up NIL wise to back this program. But it would be hard to envision Colorado being, cream of the crop when it comes to NIL budget. But again, as long as Coach Prime's in Boulder, you have other things that can kind of supplement that.
I completely agree. I think Coach Prime and the Coach Prime effect, like I said, like DJ McKinney, when I interviewed him, like that was one of, if not the number one reason that he wanted to come to Colorado, outside of the chance to win and build something, is to learn from the best at a position that he plays. And so I think just the overall pizzazz and energy that Coach Prime brings to college football, I think, is not that it mitigates some of the NIL stuff, but I think it's an ace in their cap, an ace up their sleeve, rather, that maybe a lot of these teams and programs across the country just don't have. But Adam, Munsterteiger, BuffStampede.com. One more for you before we let you go. How's this season ending up? I think they've got an outside chance for a Big 12 championship game, outside chance for a spot in the college football playoff. The fact that we're even able to say that there is a chance, albeit small, I think is a testament to Coach Prime and what they've done this year. You mentioned it, pretty favorable schedule coming off the bye against Texas Tech. I think that's probably their toughest matchup remaining throughout the course of this season. How does Adam Munsterteiger see in the Buff season end out?
Yeah, right now I would sit here and predict them to win each of those games. Now, there are reasons to think that, some of those teams could kind of have things come together. I don't know. I mean, Oklahoma State's in kind of a bad place right now, and you wonder if guys are checking out there. And I think almost at this point, guys, wouldn't you almost wish you had BYU on the schedule? Because that would give you kind of that opportunity to match up with them. Okay. And then, if you win that game, you give them a loss. You got the head-to-head there. It's just tough because BYU has a really easy schedule down the stretch too. I don't know if they're going to lose a regular season game, which is crazy. And then you've got Iowa State and Kansas State that are playing. So it's one of those will pick up a loss, at least one loss there. But you're going to need some help for Colorado, whether you go 10-2, 9-3 down the stretch. 9-3 probably doesn't get you in the championship game. But I think it's in there. They win 3 or 4 down the stretch. I said 8-4 going into the season. I guess you put a gun to my head, my final regular season prediction would probably be 9-3 at this point.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting, and they're going to need some help, but just kind of living in the moment, man. The fact that we're this far, 6-2, some good wins throughout the course of the season has been pretty fun. So looking forward to seeing how it all shakes out. But Adam Munsterteiger, BuffStampede.com, the man himself. Really appreciate all of your time, and we'll do it again soon, my friend.
Sounds good, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam.